Well, hey folks, trying to get all of my buttons flipped and knobs twisted and turned here. Let me get over here and enable Discord.
Last minute cancellation.
Good morning to you guys over in Discord. Open Pagan Church. Hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to those in the chat area. Alright, a bit of a reminder, if I can get Google to stop kicking off there. Bit of a reminder, up in the description area on every broadcast we do, you'll see the title, a description of what we're going to be talking about, a non-expiring Discord invite, and I always link to the music that we play for the opening scenes. I absolutely want the artist to get credit where credit is due. And it kind of keeps me out of hot water with copyright, if you will. Right. So, hope everyone's doing well. I know here.
Yep. Here.
I know here in North Texas, man, we had our first cold front of the season. Damn, it felt good. Down in the 40s, open the windows.
Yep, and down here in Beaumont, we got like 51.
Yeah, it was Thursday morning when I got up and walked out of the house to go to work, 42 degrees.
Woo!
It was a little chilly. So, hope everybody's got their coffee or whatever they drink. And let's get on with it, shall we? We talk a lot about self. This is our topic for today. We're going to kind of tear it apart. Clint says, not wearing a kilt anytime soon. Dude, if I could wear a kilt to work, I'd wear a kilt 7 days a week. Don't care about the weather. And you know, it's a hell of a lot warmer in a kilt during the winter than it is in, quote, warm pants. Kilts breathe, especially a real wool kilt like what I've got from let's see, mine was built in Selkirk, Scotland at Woolen Mills, that's the name of it. So yeah, talking a lot about self. You know, there's a couple of different ways we could go with this, of course. But you know, you hear a lot of people talking about self. They emphasize the I. And I find this funny, talking to people as they're discussing or describing something that was done. For some reason, they feel like they need to emphasize the I. I know it works sometimes when people are talking about something they did. They'll go, I did blah blah blah, and then I did blah blah blah. And then when they talk about partners and somebody else that may have done something, they said, and so did such and such, but I did this. So in the description it says, so, what is self? How many even know how to find self? Is finding self even a thing? What is self?
Self is that makes you think, self makes you function. To me, you have to have self to live, know what you're doing.
Right, okay. But is self all about I or me? Anybody? What is self? What is I? And is I the same as self?
Well, I looked it up, dictionary, whatever you want to call it. A person's essential being that exists them from others, especially considered as an object or reflection action.
Okay, that's the definition for self, right?
Right.
Now you'll see something funny. Look up the definition for I. Not me, but I. I think you'll find a slightly different definition between I and me. And a lot of people use it interchangeably, but it's actually not. So while you're looking that up, in today's society, I've seen it especially more so over the last 20 to 30 years. Now, I want to draw attention to something that I just said. I emphasized the I. And I said, I've seen it more often in the last 20 to 30 years. So is the emphasizing of I more meant to bring attention to me for other people?
That's what the dictionary thing, Webster is. Refer to a person or people speaking or writing about self. People on people or people being folk as a secondary person.
Exactly. When you're talking about and you're emphasizing I, and I don't mean just trying to say this is what I'm talking about, or I did this or I did that. When you're emphasizing the I, and you're accentuating your voice, and you're really actually raising your voice with an octave above the entire rest of the description. So the only thing that makes people believe is you're the only one that's important, or maybe that's what you think. Um, let's see. Lee says, he says, it's always been my belief that self is a part of the person that exists even through death. The light of life that connects us all. I like that. And it makes perfect sense. But I think the ending fundamental of I has lost what it is. I mean, I agree with Lee. It's I is a part of me, or it should be, and I and me should be a part of self. Now, when I look at myself in the mirror, well, I see a hell of a lot of gray hair and a guy that's getting a hell of a lot older. But I also see a little bit of wisdom, I think, depending on how the day's going. But the best programming in the world can be done, as we've said a million times, in the mirror. If we program ourselves that I does not have to be emphasized, but more used as a standard part of the conversation. Now, this may be a little bit of an off-throwing question, but I'm going to kind of throw this out there. If we stop emphasizing the term or the word I in a conversation, and it's more used just as a part of the conversation with the same octave, the same emphasis as the rest of the explanation, if you will, for something, do we not find that those people are more comfortable with who and what they are? If you're explaining something that you've done and you're using the word I as just a standard explanation of who, do you not find those people to be more comfortable with who and what they are?
Yes, that definitely they would be more comfortable.
But when I've had people question me in the past why I bring up these types of topics on emphasizing I, people trying to be a hero, people losing track of self, finding self, and you know, like I said in the description, is finding self even a thing? I think finding self is very important. It I'm a firm believer that if you don't know self and you're having trouble finding or accepting, in even more cases, accepting self, is it going to be more difficult to go through life not understanding self? What do y'all think?
Well, when you give topics like this, or some topics, different kinds, you want people to think, not just accept what they are or what a self is. It's a way of getting the brain and you thinking about it.
Well, part of what Open Pagan Church is about, I mean, the word open is not just a describer, it's an actual philosophy that we try to live open. We are of the pagan persuasion or pagan mindset. Of course, you don't have to be pagan to join in the conversation. And then church is a simple descriptive gathering meaning of what we are. Hi, Teresa. So when people are thinking of self, or you're using a descriptive term of I and you're emphasizing the I rather than just using it in a basic conversation, I found those types of people to be relatively insecure, not sure they're knowledgeable of their topic. And I'm not putting anyone down. I'm more or less bringing up a topic for conversation, if you will, that finding the self is highly important. Living with self is highly important, and being able to accept the self is very important.
Have you ever gone a whole day or 24 hours and you cannot say I, you, or me? It's hard to do because you're
That,
always,
go ahead.
you'd be surprised at how much of the I syndrome people would do.
Oh, I know.
And
Yeah. I mean, I just said it again, and I just said it again. But
right,
using I as a description rather than I as an emphasis, um, one of the things that we try to do is use I as a description rather than an emphasis. Lee says, could finding self possibly be a method of looking into your own soul and the person you can be if you're true to oneself? That is exactly what we're trying to say. When you're accepting self, right? Now, don't get me wrong, folks. I mean, we all misplace self on occasion. We all abuse self on occasion. I mean, hell, I'm 57 years old and studied years of martial arts and recovered drug addict from the 80s, and um, it's a wonder I even know who the hell I am or what I am. But I think maybe going through all of that and going through the trials and tribulations that each of us go through on a daily basis, once we slow down, if you will, and those who are going through the addictive stage are going through an abusive stage or going through a stage where one is being abused, the self the self is a very fine piece of paper. And I don't have a piece of paper. Do I have a piece of paper? Aha, I have a piece of paper. So if we think of self as a piece of paper, all right, it's very flexible. It's very flexible, but it's also very bendable. And what even makes it worse, and by the way, this is a really piece of shit smartwatch. The iConnect by Timex, that's a really piece of crap watch. Thought I'd throw that in there. Sorry, I digress. Oh, wait. I digress. No, I'm kidding. But the self, it's very fragile. And it can rip easily. I've been wanting to do that anyway with that piece of paper. It can rip very easily. It can fragment. It can tear, much like a crystal chalice. And once it's broken, it's real difficult to put back together. But how many of us have found ourselves cracked, broken, shattered, pieces missing? What are some of the things, and I mean, I'd like to see some of y'all's input on this question, but I understand if you don't. What are some of the things that you have done to put self back together when it's been through the abuse, when it's been through the addictions, when it's been through the life examples of complete and utter destruction, when self has been driven to the point where it shatters? What have you done, or are you still doing it, to put self back together?
Oh boy, you ready?
Come on with it.
Well, with me, um, I know it's been a while, but 23 years ago, I married a man that I was married to for 23 years. On that point, I found the church, and it helped me focus putting self back together. Um, Also, everyday life learning experiences have helped me do self. But then come along, I've had 3 divorces now, and I've just said, okay, they're a learning experience. Can't dwell on it. Can't get sad about it. There's no use in it. It's done. But doing the self is waking up every morning, get a priority on what needs to be done or how we do it, and one day at a time. Sometimes you have to work on self.
Yeah, you're right, and it can take some time. Um, Repairing self, putting self back together, really, absolutely does not happen overnight. And also, kind of like I try to read everybody's comments on air, um, but Teresa says, I think a better analogy of self would be clay. I like that. Because in the right conditions, it can be molded into anything we wish, right? Even if it is destroyed, you can easily rebuild. She goes on to say, I've been destroyed many times and always managed to rebuild something new and better and stronger than it was before. Yes, thank you very much for sharing that. Absolutely, we're all clay. Human beings, we're molded by society. We're molded by interaction, action, and reaction by all of those around us. Lee says a lot of meditation, taking the pieces that you can be happy with, the person you see in the mirror, put the rest on a shelf. Each piece has made you the person you are today. Yes. And something that I have found real interesting, I'm a firm believer that when I read a book or, well, listen to audio, I don't read books because my dyslexic screws with my ability to comprehend what the hell I'm reading. But I listen to audiobooks. And I'm very choosy with the books that I listen to. And I use the term chalice because the chalice is used in the Black Jewel trilogy. It's used in all throughout the books of the Black Jewels. And we're going to be discussing that next week, I think, in Live with a Shaman. But whether you view it as clay or whether you view it as a chalice, there are pieces of self that we may not want put back in the hole. Things like hatred. Hate is a very dangerous, absolute dangerous emotion that, shut up Google. Hatred is a very dangerous emotion that can cause a continuous, constant swirl going downward. Fear is a very dangerous emotion. So self, again, like we say, in retrospect, though, self can also be a very tough old bird. And I find the older you get, you tend to take one of three paths when it comes to self. Now, see what you think about this ideology. And it's just that. It's an ideology. It's something I use and I follow. But as you get older, self can take one of three paths. You can take the path of the victim, okay? The person where self has been destroyed to the point where there's just really nothing left and they lose all hope. They lose all faith in self or anything else. So sometimes they will take the path of the victim, the one that wants to be felt sorry for, the one that wants to be, what's the word I'm looking for, patronized or placated, if you will. The victim. Well, the second path, of course, is one that says, I learned from that. And, like said, it's helped make me who I am. It's helped formed the me that's here today. I don't want sympathy. If people ask for my story and I tell it, then they're getting just that. They're getting a story told by my perception of the events that happened to me over the years. Whether it's 100% factual or not, we still have the perception of the truth of the events that happened to us in years past. So it also piles onto that truth is 99% perception and interpretation. It's only 1% fact. So the second path that self can take is one of rebuilding, self-acknowledgement, self-esteem, and moving forward. Now the third path is probably a little more dangerous than the first path, and that is the path of utter anger and hate and jaded. When self takes the path of hatred and self takes the path of destruction, and self takes the third path of one who blames the whole world for the things that have happened to them, well, that's where you get these mass murderers. That's where you get these people that have gone out and committed mass hysteria. Okay, these are the types of people that terrorists look for. These, as well as type 1, that is the victim. Terrorists want to take these people and they want to mold them to believe the way they want them to be. So here we step back again to self is very fragile. Like Teresa said, it's very malleable, it's very moldable. We have to have a strong enough personality to be able to grow into the center, if you will, the center path of self. The one that says, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to make it through this. And when I used to look at myself in the mirror and I was working through the things I went through when I was younger, and I learned about the mirror, and I learned that my best friend is looking at me in the mirror. And we used to sit there and have a whole lot of conversations. You're going to be okay. You're going to make it through this shit, right? You have to believe enough in yourself. Let's see what Clint says.
I remember this day, Clint.
Say what?
Yeah, what Clint wrote was about his past. He got engaged to a girl and got broke up and really hit him hard. And then Tammy came to him. Then they got engaged and he found the path on our property.
Yeah. So I mean, we can all look at our story as we've all been through one shattering or another. Lee says, go ahead.
I don't, probably 98% of us go through shatterings, and it improves us, I think, if you let them find it.
Well, yeah. Lee says, and the self has to be able to ride the wave of life. Yeah, absolutely. Clint's multitasking today. Clint, doing more than one thing at a time. You go, dude. So yeah, we ride the wave of life. Sometimes guys will walk through at work, and I find that kind of funny, because they'll be sitting there and they'll say, how's it going? I say, man, I'm just riding the wave, hanging 10, so to speak, as used to be the favorite phrase when I was in my teens. Hanging 10. Now I do good to hang 1 or 2, but, hey. And on a little lighter note, right? On a lighter note, we need to be able to laugh at ourselves. Today, wow, man, every time I turn around in the workplace, somebody's going, what you said is offensive. You offended me. I'm gonna tell HR on you because the way you look offended me. And I'm like, look the other way, bruh. I am absolutely not gonna win any beauty contest. Nor am I trying. Nah. Lee says, or you could be the creator of the waves. Yeah, I've been there, done that. Created my own waves and wish later I hadn't. Of course, some of them were fun. Some of them not so fun. But it comes back to self. Come on, look on Facebook. You can see it all day, every day. Everybody's offended about something. Everybody wants to get mad about something. Okay, that's your opinion. You can have it. I'm not expected to agree with your opinion. I'm of the mindset I'm perfectly okay agreeing to disagree. When it comes to self, I'm comfortable with who I am.
Me too. I finally got to a point. Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, I've got health issues.
That's like me. I had health, like you said, we discussed before the topic. I'm disabled. I'm getting worse, and Paul need help. So I'm willing to get help. My daughter-in-law, uh, stepdaughter, is coming down, or is down.
Well, I mean, that's great because we have to be able. Everyone, at some point, has to be able to ask for help. And ego and pride is another real serious self-destruct mechanism for self. I mean, I've been told my ego is bigger than how'd they put it? Bigger than the Grand Canyon. Alright, I got an ego. But it ain't that big. I don't think.
We're a shaman. We're shaman. We have to have ego.
Well, that can also be described as egotistical, but we won't go down that road on Open Pagan Church.
Nope. Teresa got something in the boat.
Yep. She says, I hate it when people are like that. And I tell people all the time that if you're offended by something I do, that's your problem, not a me problem, because when it comes down to it, no one can make you feel any type of way if you don't allow them to. No one can intimidate you or make you feel bad unless you allow them to. Abso-freaking-lutely. But here's a question for you. And it is on topic, and it's a rhetorical question, not one I'm actually expecting an answer to. But as we get older, or as more experienced, I've seen a lot of kids today that unfortunately their wisdom and experiences of abuse and just basically mistreatment, especially kids that have been bullied, their understanding of self-abuse is scarily accurate. And a lot of these kids are not even 18 years old yet. Now I know when I was in school, I was a scrawny little shit. Now let me tell you, I was bullied, and I was bullied until I decided to start standing up for myself. I learned how to fight. I learned what I could and couldn't do. And the first time I stood up to the school bully, they left me alone. And I've tried to instill this on my daughter as well. Even though, sadly, in schools today, if you stand up to a bully in school and you physically defend yourself, you are treated the same way the bully is treated. And most of the time, the bully turns around and tries to play victim and get you in trouble because you stood up for yourself. I see that a lot. And one of the things I asked the principal of the school that my daughter was going to at the time, I said, let me ask you a question. If someone, and I said, we're gonna take personal out of it. Okay, we're gonna take my daughter out of it, and we're gonna use a not even a hypothetical question, because this happens all the time. When kids are being abused by other kids, and the adults that are entrusted to care for these children, such as you, the principal, and everyone else, the teachers, I said, you become a part of the problem. I said, because you are abusing these children by allowing them to be abused by other people when you are in charge of the school. Thereby, you will be one of the primary ones named in the lawsuit. Ladies and gentlemen, that got his attention. It was like somebody just yanked a knot in his ass and said, "Ooh wee." You know? The next day, there was an apology made, and there were, over the next couple of weeks, there were new policies put in place in that school for bullying. I didn't have to threaten him. I didn't have to get angry. I will say I wanted to yank him across that desk and whoop his ass. Because that's my little girl you're messing with, and I will mess you up. Or I'll try. But it goes back to self. I think people who call other people arrogant, much of the time, has problems with their own self-esteem, self-respect, self-acknowledgement, self-understanding. And a lot of times these people are the very ones, like I started out the broadcast with, they want to emphasize I. When they start a topic with something they did, they emphasize, I did blah 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 blah. I went blah 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 blah. But when we're talking about self, self should be just a part of the conversation. Me? I'm just a part of myself. I'll always be a part of self. I didn't used to be, many years ago. Went through the same growing pains as everybody else. Yeah, Teresa says schools today care more about their image than they do about their kids, unfortunately. Absolutely unfortunately. But here's a question. And here's a question for all of us to answer. Who can change public schools? Is it to the lawmakers? Now, I'm going to use Texas as an example because that's where I live. But is it to Austin, Texas, to change the laws of the school? Or is it to the parents to go to the school boards in numbers, right? Not a mob mentality. Don't go up there mad because you're going to make an ass of yourself. Gather your data, gather your information, go to the school boards, talk at the school boards, present your data. If parents force the schools to change, Austin, Texas, has no choice but to follow suit.
Right, just like I did with Sabrina when she was in Cleveland school. She had trouble with the assistant principal and some teachers, so I went up there and talked to the principal. He saw no wrongdoing with them talking. She had trouble with her religion. They did. So I went over the principal, and I think you came one time and got them to leave her alone on it.
Well, I know when your daughter was going to school, it wasn't in Liberty. It was either 01 or 02 that I went to the Liberty High School, and I had a conversation with the principal, and I said, okay, I run a pagan church. We have an average of 50 to 75 people to 100 people at any ritual. Average on Sunday conversation on our Sunday gatherings, we have anywhere from 20 to 50 people in a circle sharing wisdom and ideas and philosophies. I said I've had 3 kids in the last 3 months sent home because they were wearing pentagrams. I said, but when I got here today and walked through the hall, I counted 15 crosses hanging around kids' necks. I said, you got 2 choices, and you got 24 hours to do it. Are you threatening me? I said, yes, I am. In fact, I'm threatening you with the federal Constitution and the right to religion. Now, he made the mistake of telling me, school kids do not fall under the Constitution of the United States.
Oh.
I took a deep breath and I said, I beg to differ with you. He said, what do you mean? I said, is this a public school? Yes. Does my child have any choice but to go to school? He said, what do you mean? I said, if I yank my kid out of school, what happens? Well, you'd be arrested for truancy. I said, thereby, this is a federally mandated thing that a child must do. Yeah. I said, thereby, it's run by the government. Yeah. Thereby, they fall under the United States Constitution and freedom of religion and freedom to defend themselves under the Constitution. Thereby, you are validating the Constitution. Thereby, my pentacle wearing students will be back in class tomorrow, and if you deny them access to that class, the FBI in Beaumont will be notified before sundown.
And boy, did he crawfish out of that.
No, he essentially told me to go get screwed.
Yep. And then Sabrina went back
FBI went and padlocked the school.
Yep. But with all that going on, I taught my daughter that it's I or self. It's yourself that does things. It's your essential. I mean, it's yourself that you build from this mistake or this criticism. Make yourself better.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And Teresa says, it's got to be a group effort. Exactly. That's what I was saying a while ago. Parents have to come together. Parents have to group together. But she says, without the backing of the law, you can go nowhere. Well, there's a problem with that, Teresa, and you may not know it. But a federally regulated education facility, right, where either the state or the federal government, and both, have a federally regulated public, the word public is what gets them, public school. Your children, every child in the United States of America, have the right to attend a school without the interruption of their religious beliefs or their social lifestyle. As long as their religious beliefs and their social lifestyle do not harm others. And I'm sorry, but if somebody's offended, that's not harming them. They need to get over it and grow up, pull up their big boy or big girl panties, and get on with it. But see, all of this comes down to the whole purpose of the whole conversation today is self. And the last line says, is finding self even a thing? Absolutely. We, as elders, parents, grandparents, children, if you are, if you're a child, come on. If you're a child, you got parents. They may not be around. They may not have much to do with you. But at the end of the day, those young people that are watching these broadcasts, it is your responsibility to try to stand on self and start repairing the things that have happened to you. Whatever you do, don't become a victim. And don't become a mass murderer. Now, we're 19 minutes past the hour. I'm going to kind of start winding down a little bit unless anybody has any other input they want to put in. If you do, by all means, step up.
Nope, I'm good. I think we covered self and I
want to kind of close with this, if you would. First off, thank you very much for watching Open Pagan Church and attending. We've had a really good conversation. I always say I'm open for topics. I need topics. Sometimes I run, if you can believe it, sometimes I run out of things to talk about. But let's think about this. If I allow others to destroy myself, like was said in chat, it's my responsibility to hang on to that. But in retrospect, ladies and gentlemen, not everyone has the tenacity or the strength to do that. It takes people like you guys, myself included, but it takes people like you guys that are out in the community to help kids be lifted up. Teach them how to stand on their own and how to build self. Use your own story to help them build themselves. Don't compare your crap with their crap. Don't get into a crap comparisons. But a simple, I understand. I've been there. How can I help you start rebuilding self? At the end of the day, you've got to do the work. You've got to take the responsibility, and you've got to stand up. But finding self is absolutely a thing, and it is a very, very important thing. Well, folks, we've had a good conversation. Thank you very much. And I'm going to send you on your way to have a good rest of your day and a good rest of your week. And those of you that watch the pre-recorded broadcast, we absolutely want your comments, your thoughts, your ideas, whatever. We look forward to hearing from you. Have a great day, and we will see you next time right here on House of Pagans and Open Pagan Church.